And so men grow up programmed looking for answers from women. The problem is when they start dating and getting engaged and married, some men still treat their wives like a mom, looking for answers and solutions. And when you treat a woman like she's your mom, looking for answers and solutions that you as a man should be able to figure out, she will start treating you like her boy and not her man. And therein lies the massive chasm between men and women.
What's going on, guys? Welcome back to the From Boys to Men show, brought to you by the Squire Program. I'm your host, Lheighton Cook, and I got a really special guest with me here today. You might know him, you might not, I don't know. Perhaps one of the instructors, actually the founder of the Squire Program. So, B, welcome to your studio.
Thank you, and thanks for having me on your show.
I appreciate it. I appreciate it, man. We've been trying to plan this for a long time. Obviously, You're a busy guy, and we finally got a chance to sit down and have a conversation about what we got going on here, man. So today, I thought it was fitting to have this conversation because actually this was inspired by a conversation Lauren and I were having upstairs about men's vulnerability and should they be vulnerable with their spouse, and should men cry and these kinds of things. I think it's an important topic because it's kind of a taboo. Guys don't want to show them that side of them. So first question for you, do you believe that men should be vulnerable?
Yeah, absolutely. I think men should show vulnerability. I think that can get unpacked in 10 different ways. Vulnerability is good. I think like you and I show each other vulnerability, right? Like we have conversations where like you'll say you love me, I say I love you in a text, in a voice shot. No different than I would with my kids. Same with team members here. With Joan, when my mom died 6 weeks ago, I was talking to her in my office and she was like, "Hey, so how are you doing? Are you doing okay?" I was like, "Yeah, I think I'm doing okay." And then all of a sudden I just started tears started pouring out. Vulnerability. Emotion. What we need to unpack is the difference between vulnerability and a man who is emotionally reckless. And the difference there is that a man who is vulnerable builds connections. Like, guess what? It feels good for you and my friends to tell me that you love me, you care for me, we got each other's back, high fives, whatever. That's good vulnerability. Obviously, we know that because we're friends, but it always feels good to hear that. Your wife loves you, but when you hear it, it's a little special feeling. What's vulnerability? Vulnerability is you're putting yourself out there for rejection or for hurt, knowing that the other person is going to carry your heart and your feelings in the palm of their hands in the most gentle way possible. That's vulnerability. Emotional recklessness or emotionally unhinged is when a man starts getting so frustrated, so angry, so upset, where he's now not just showing emotions by way of crying because my mom died and being upset and sad about that, or emotions by way of saying, "Lheyton, I love you, man. You're like family to me." But emotions as in murderous rage, wanting to see scorched earth. Men, when we are emotionally unhinged, we don't sit around a table like women would and have wine and cheese and talk about what's bothering us and maybe cry a little bit and then hold each other and say, "That's okay, you'll be fine." We want to get unhinged and just create scorched earth. We want to go into a murderous rage. And this is why men need emotional discipline, emotional control. We need to stop reacting and start responding to emotional triggers that set us off. Reaction is, well, I had no control over that. I did that because he did this and he had it coming and now he's dead. Okay. There was a video you showed me. The dude, I think this is a viral video that went around. A guy was just protecting his daughter, gas station. She's 15 years old. She goes into the gas station restroom. There's this weird cracked out homeless guy who follows her into the gas station. He starts trying to get into the restroom door. She obviously doesn't come out, has the door locked. I'm guessing she came out and told her dad or something. And her dad confronts this homeless crackhead "Hey, man, you're trying to get at my girl, my daughter? What the hell?" He gets emotionally unhinged. At that point, maybe he might have some choice words for him. If it leads to violence, he might put the guy down on his ass. A lesson has been learned. This guy hopefully will no longer go pursue young kids in a liquor store restroom. Mm-hmm. But instead, what did he do? He put him down on his ass. He lost all emotional control, started seeing red, and stomped on the back of his head and killed him. And now he went to prison, right?
Mm-hmm. 8 years, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So this is a difference of he could have responded to that situation by going, man, this sucks. That's my baby girl. Like, I'm her protector. Like, who the fuck are you? Why did you do this? How dare you do this? Like, don't you ever do this again? And if the guy comes at me, I'm going to put him down on his ass, but I'm responding to that situation. Reacting is, I'm seeing red. My baby girl was threatened. Part of it is seeing red is ego. Part of it is no emotional control. And now you're reacting. And when you react, you get to the point of murderous rage. Literally, he was having murderous rage. And unfortunately now, for 8 years, his daughter will be without a father.
Right, right. So what do you have to say to the people that say, okay, well, not people, let's say, well, I guess some men will say it. Usually you hear this argument from women where they say, okay, well, why couldn't you be vulnerable like women, where we sit around a table and drink wine and just talk?
Yeah.
Why do you have to go and want to hurt people? Like, that's, you have issues to work through if that's your,
No,
you know.
no, we have no issues to work through. We're not wired like women. Yeah. I want to ask a woman, why don't you want to punch a hole in the wall when you're like angry and upset? Because that's what I want to do. I want to punch a hole in the wall. And ideally that wall is the person that angered me, as far as when I'm punching a hole in the wall. The old me, not the new me, but that's what we want to do as men.
Right.
We're wired that way. Let's not forget that there was a time that we were cave people. And people and their argument is, but we don't live in caves anymore. Other tribes are not attacking us and we don't feel threatened. And so when I get it, men needed to be able to resort to violence when emotion would surge through their body. You don't need to resort to violence anymore. Want to bet? Just a few years back, I was on an airplane. We've talked about this. I was on an airplane with my family coming back from Maui, a family vacation. We're sitting in first class. There's another guy in the front of first class who's a flight risk. The flight attendants tried to zip cuff him and everything, and he wouldn't. And so, they yelled for help, and I went up there and had to get him I had to resort to violence because we're in an airplane 30,000 feet over the Pacific. And I got very angry because my family, my wife, my kids, their lives were at threat, in danger, as well as everyone else on that plane. And I got very angry. Mm-hmm. And I just looked up and went over there and helped him out and got him in a rear naked chokehold, zip tied him, was definitely very rough with him, dragged his ass to the back like they wanted us to drag him back, sat him down and was very physical with him while we were sitting security until the plane landed. The part I didn't share on my show was he'd wake up and he'd come to from his stupor because the flight attendants wanted us to sit in the back with him, obviously far away from the cockpit, in the back, away from everyone. And me and the other guy that helped me out in zip tying him and taking him down, we rotated security over the 5-hour flight. And when he'd come to and start getting violent, I would just jam my fucking elbow right into his rib. I was trying to break his elbow. I was trying to lean in and smash him in the face with my head. And we're way in the back by the restrooms anyway. No one's looking, and everyone's looking away on purpose because they know, when this guy starts mouthing off, we're going to do something.
Right.
But damn right I'm going to do something. I'm not going to just try and rationalize with him and talk to him. That's not how we're wired. So the same emotional response that we had as cavemen when we were protecting our little tribe and our food, what little food we had, our families, our babies in our cave, that same response kicked up in me in an airplane, that same response. And so that doesn't mean that men can't talk. We can. And you come to the project, you're part of the Squire Program, you're at Operation Black Site. The way men can talk things out, share emotion, show massive vulnerability, is either knowing each other for a long time. I've known you since you were 10 years old, so I don't know, what are we going on, 19 years? Something like that. My math is horrible,
close.
but
18,
right? 18 years, right?
Yeah.
I've known you for a long time, so we've got history. I've known your mom for a long time. I was her personal trainer, and so when we have history with someone, yeah, you can come into my office, we talk, we shoot the shit. There's history there that allows for emotional openness. But when men don't know each other or just kind of know each other, maybe they just know each other from work, We're not going to be like, hey, let's all go out and paint tapestries. What is it called? Color Me Mine, right? Where you paint tapestries and have some wine and, and talk about your life's issues and problems. That's great that women do that. Men, on the other hand, need to go do something physical. Hey, let's go play ball. Hey, let's go box. Let's go do jujitsu and roll. And between rolling sessions, when we're sweating and wiping off our sweat, we have a little deep conversation because men need to test themselves. Mm-hmm. It is in our DNA. We are factory installed. I want to test you and be active with you. And that doesn't mean just combatives, like in sports. Like I want to go surf with you. I want to play basketball. I want to do something, work out with you. And then in that process, I get to see who you are as a man. Then I'll bring my wall down and we'll connect and communicate at an emotional level. So men do have that capacity, but I must first get to know you at a level where I feel like you've passed the shit test.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's a beautiful way to put it too, man, because just like you said, we're just wired differently. That's the answer I knew you were going to say. Yeah. That's what I believe as well is, on the plane when that happened, you were one of the two men that actually got up and did something because naturally that was your reaction. But then maybe there are some badass like alpha women who would have got up and done something. Sure. But for the most part, they're wired to just be like, grab their kids if they're next to the kids, protect, like in a different way. That's what my wife did. You know what I mean? So we're just wired differently. That's a beautiful way to put it. So talking about the spouse part, what are your thoughts about being vulnerable with your spouse? Because they say that they want it. A lot of women are talking about, well, he's not vulnerable, he doesn't communicate. Yeah. But then somebody might communicate and they're vulnerable, and then tears might come down, and they think you're soft. You know what I mean?
So this is a really good question you're teeing up. There's a fine line that men have to walk. Yeah. By the way, there's a fine line that women have to walk. So fellas listening to this, don't be like, man, why do we have to walk some fine line, but women don't? Women do too. There's a fine line they walk because we want all of our women to be like classy on our arms when we're out and about. We want you to be a presentable woman. Want you to be my trophy wife when we're out. But behind closed doors, I need you to be a little slutty freak. That's just how it is.
I knew it's coming.
Right. You know what's coming, Lheyton. You know.
I was already smart. I already
so
knew.
So they have to walk a fine line. It's like, okay, dress sexy, but walk classy.
Right.
But that same dress, if you just walked a little different, we just crossed into the line where my predatory response comes out, and I want to tackle her down and just take her right then and there, but we can't. But the idea of it is exciting. But then as soon as we get home, So women have lines to walk too, and the line that men need to walk is you have to understand you can't be a complainer. You can't go to your wife and she can't be your sounding wall where you're complaining, because women are wired to go, look, I will have a baby. I will raise our babies. I will make sure our home is, hopefully she makes sure like the home is clean and there's food and laundry's getting done. And then my expectations of you are make sure that the home is secure. Make sure that the home is not lost to the bank, that the mortgage is getting paid, that we're safe in here. If there's a thud, a knock at the door, a thud at the door, that you're the first one who's going to wake up and grab your pistol or grab a flashlight, check what's going on. There are expectations that we have of one another. And a woman has the expectations of, I want to make sure I want to feel safe. I want to be financially secure. And I'm like, hey, make sure our babies are well taken care of, make sure they become great members of society. I want to make sure my house is clean, it's peaceful, laundry, organized, everything, whatever, right? Like if that's just me, I'm traditional, that's the natural order. I just love the natural order that people fall into. Yes, there's men. There was a dude at the project, this last project class. He's like, yeah, my wife makes $250,000 a year. And so we decided that I'm going to be the stay-at-home dad. All of us instructors at the same time are like, whoa. I know you guys decided that, but you're going to start hating that life because it's not factory installed for you to be with your babies all the time. Yep. And to do all the house stuff. You're not going to do it as well. And you're going to start building resentment against her because your job as a man, your internal desire, genetical needs are to go out and hunt and conquer and figure out and bring home the brontosaurus and cook it up. And the modern version of that is obviously a career, a business, a job, or whatever. And then her thing is like, dude, I don't want to go fight traffic every day.
Right.
Dress in fishnets and whatever, fancy pinstripe suit and for some other man who's my boss. And then you're going to be like, you dress up for him, put on makeup and perfume and make your hair all fancy. Yeah, but at first it made sense. Well, you're making $250,000 a year, so I'm going to stay at home. But now she comes home, puts her hair up, takes the makeup off, wears like your baggy sweats, right? And you're like, fuck, man, you look like a homeless chick. You went out the door this morning looking smoking hot for your boss, but when you come home, and guess what? She does look like a homeless chick because she's tired. She wants to be comfortable. I want to be comfortable. I wear my sweats at night. If I had long hair, I'd put it up. Whatever. So the bottom line is there's natural orders of things. And so we told this dude, like, hey, no way, no how. And so is it okay to be vulnerable and open? Absolutely. Is it okay to vomit your life's problems, to seem emotionally reckless to your wife or to any woman? No, because what you're triggering is her, this man is a desperate and unreliable man response. And then she's going to be like, I don't want you as my man.
Right.
You don't seem like you know how to protect me and provide for me and our babies, and so I don't feel safe, and therefore I got to bounce.
Right.
So there's that fine line that men have to walk, and if you can walk that walk, which is easy enough to do, it's common sense. Am I vomiting stuff on her every day, and she's like the fix-it? And here's the problem. We are all born to a mom. That's how it is. I know on the iPhone now there's a pregnant man emoji, and so some people might get really mixed up thinking like, I've been trying to get myself pregnant. It's not working. No, it's not going to work because you're a man. God damn it. But we're all born from a woman. And when we're born from a woman, that woman immediately brings us to her breast and feeds us, or gives us a bottle, changes our diaper, cleans us. And while we may not remember the first year or two, I believe, and there's science now that shows that your neurology remembers that mom is safe, mom is security, mom has solutions for my hunger, mom has solutions for my diaper that's dirty, mom can rock me and give me comfort and put me to sleep. And so men grow up programmed looking for answers from women. The problem is when they start dating and getting engaged and married, some men still treat their wives like a mom, looking for answers and solutions.
It's crazy.
And when you treat a woman like she's your mom, looking for answers and solutions that you as a man should be able to figure out, she will start treating you like her boy and not her man. And therein lies the massive chasm between men and women. Like that's how a divorce begins to manifest.
Right. Dude, I love how you put that, man. I want to ask you about, so what do you think about, what my opinion is, someone who's just like venting, trying to get something off their chest versus a complainer would be basically somebody who has an issue, they have a problem, and they're trying to solve it. Actually, they're not trying to solve it. The person who's just venting is just like, I need to get this off my chest. I feel comfortable with you. You're obviously my spouse. I want to let it all out, whatever, and have a conversation and, whatever. I have a solution. I know what I need to do. Today was just a rough day, whatever, right? Yeah. Versus somebody who has a problem and they're complaining about it. They don't really have any idea on what to do. They're not really looking for a solution. They just want to complain and not do anything to fix it. And so what's your opinion on, I guess, the difference between someone who's just a complainer versus, a man who can vent and talk about something that piss him off in the day or he struggles with, but is actually still he's going to get the job done.
Yeah. That's the man you want to be. You want to be the man who is open with your spouse or with friends. Like if I'm like, Elle, how's everything? Good. See you tomorrow. Hey, Elle, how are leads for the December 9th event? Good. All right, Elle, day 3. Can I get anything more than good? I feel like you're stonewalling me, right? But if you're like, hey, man, it's good. We're using this strategy to get leads from here. We're using your Instagram account to get leads from there. And I've got 15 people lined up to talk to. And I think I'll be able to bring 5 of them who are qualified into the December 9th workshop. By the way, I feel like, and maybe you start showing a little vulnerability, but I feel like, December 9th is coming up and I feel the pressure and I feel like I might be letting you down, B. And so let's say you start complaining with no solution. Then I'm going to be like, fuck, where's the Lheighton that I knew, right? But if you're like, man, I feel like I'm letting you down. I feel the pressure that December 9th is coming up and we may not have all the right people in the room and I don't want to let you down. However, me and Andrew are going to send out this email that's going to get more leads. I need you to make this video for me to put on your social media to drive more leads for me. And then Lauren upstairs is going to run these ads to drive more leads as well. These are the 3 sources of solution that I found, B, that we're going to do. Now I'm like, cool, man. You vented. We're friends. We're homies. I appreciate it. You got it off your chest. But then you're like, but here's a solution. Now I could be like, man, I love this guy. Thank you. And if I have a 4th solution, I'd be like, oh, and also try this, right? Or I might be like, bro, thank you. That's the kind of dude I want around me. So if I was a woman and you were my husband, that's what I would be looking for. It's okay to vent. but then tell me how you solved it.
Right.
Don't be the husband that where the wife goes, "How was your day? Good. How was traffic? Horrible." Because now she just feels like, because women do want to communicate. In fact, studies show that women speak, on average, women speak 7 times more than men throughout the day. That's just a fact. There's 700% more words that comes out of a woman's mouth.
It's crazy.
Bro, I went out with Bobby Dean about 8 months ago.
Yeah.
His wife was pregnant with their second child. And I go out, I get home. Guy's like, "So how's Bobby?" I'm like, "Oh, he's good. Still working at the sheriff's department there as a deputy in LA and doing his financial services business as well, blah, blah, blah." "Oh, do they know if they're having a boy or a girl?" "You know what? I don't know." She goes, "You didn't ask?" I'm like, "No. I just said, how's Erica? How's the pregnancy?" He said, "Good." And we moved on to the next topic.
Right.
"So you don't know if they're having a boy or girl?" "Well, when's the due date?" You know, babe, I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know when the due date is. "So you don't know the gender. Did you ask what they're going to name the baby?" "No, I didn't." And then I realized this is how women have 700% more words at the end of the day than a man. Because they're like, the details.
Yeah.
What's the baby's name? What's the nickname? How did you come up with that nickname? What color is the room going to be? What about the stroller? Is it a side-by-side? I don't give a fuck. Like, I don't care, right?
No,
As men, I'm like, "Bro, is your wife good with the pregnancy?"
Right.
Yes.
Everything
Are
cool?
you excited for your baby? Yes. Cool. On to the next topic.
Right.
And there's how we have 700% less words.
Exactly.
But because women want the detail, if you decide that you're going to partner up with a woman for life because you like the soft skin of a woman and the smell of a woman and the feel of a woman, you want a wife, then you are going to have to learn how to communicate.
Mm-hmm.
But communicate in a way where you also are the source of a solution. Don't just bring the trouble and problems and put it at her feet. Also go, and then here's how we're going to solve it. So she goes, "Oh, that's a man right there.
Mm-hmm.
Now I know what's happening in our world." She doesn't have anxiety. Like, okay, so there's some problems. Got it. Leaky roof and electrical plug doesn't work, and that door back there doesn't lock. But you put bubble gum up there for the leaky roof, and the electrical thing. The electrician's on his way tomorrow, and you've got the couch pushed in front of the door for the night until tomorrow someone fixes it. Thank you for having the solutions. Like, she's going to be like tonight. Like, what do you want? Lingerie? Do you want me to put extra chapstick on? Right? Like,
Right.
that's what your woman's going to be reacting to, because they love when a man can solve a problem.
Yeah.
Women are turned on by a dude who can solve a problem.
Yeah.
So if we just show up with the problem and no solution, they're turned off by that.
Mm-hmm. There you go. You got to play chess, guys. You got to be 10 steps ahead, because right now you're 10 steps behind, setting yourself up for failure, man. So, okay, so when it comes to complaining, actually, I believe you can actually train yourself too to stop being that way. If you are like that, you can actually train yourself to not complain about things all the time. Like I learned this from Brandon Carter. One time he had a video, he was talking about one time him and his little cousin were walking to a restaurant. They're in Chicago. It's a cold winter night. Obviously it's freezing over there, right? And so his cousin kept complaining. He said the first time he complained it was cold, he just let it slide. Second time, he was like getting a little irritated about it. And the third time, he was like, when he's like, "Man, it's cold out here." Brandon's like, "So? You complain about it, you're going to cry?" Like, it's not going to change anything. Just because you said it's cold doesn't mean it's going to make it warmer for you. Like, what is it going to do? And I guess there was Brandon's sister, which would be his mom, and someone else in the family. And that young teenager remembered that feeling, and he was like, "I'm not going to be like this anymore. Like, I don't want to be the dude just complaining, bringing negativity and stuff like that." So, nobody wants that, whether it's your spouse or, a coworker or whoever, like someone who's always bringing down the energy, the vibes, and complaining and never have anything positive to say. Like, it's just like nobody wants to be around that.
Nobody.
Bro.
And that's such a great example, Brandon's story. And the fact that, obviously Brandon's sister, that kid's mom, was there, and they're all there. And this kid was like, "I never want to be the source of that again. It was so embarrassing. I never want that." But look how men also, like, there's a lesson in that. Like, look how men fix themselves, right?
Right.
Like, first time, I'm going to let it slide. Second time, I'm going to let it slide. Third time, I'm going to get up your ass about it. Where a woman might just kind of, in a passive way, like, well, I guess complaining about it doesn't help. So, like, why are we complaining, right? A man just gets up. Like, that's also how we deal with each other.
Exactly, yeah.
And then it's a fist bump, and then we move on. Like, again, going back to this last project class, I don't know if you were there, but I had to choke Coker out because he wouldn't drop his sledgehammer, and our Navy SEAL instructor, Will, was trying to pull the thing, and, like, there's a tug of war with the with the sledgehammer. So I'm like, Coker, put the goddamn thing down. He's like, no, sir. So I just like got on his neck and choked him and ripped him apart. And he was giving me the death stare the whole time. And afterwards, about 15 minutes go by, I'm like, Coker, we good? He goes, yeah. And I give him a fist bump, and he had a smile on his face. And the rest of the time, we're buddies throughout the project.
Right.
Like, otherwise, I'm like, this kid's going to try and attack me.
Yeah, you're like watching your back.
Yeah, but it's like, that's how men correct themselves. But women correct themselves differently. Does that mean I got to be more like a woman? No. And do I need a woman to go and choke a dude out? No. There's just different ways that we work. So that's lesson number one. The other lesson in that is, and that everyone can relate to, remember the Winnie the Pooh cartoons?
Yeah.
Like, there's Winnie the Pooh, and then there's like the Tigger, who was like, whoo, always happy and jumpy. Do you remember the donkey?
Yeah, Eeyore. Yeah.
Eeyore. Yeah. Just, hey, Eeyore, what a beautiful day, huh? The sun's out, the grass is green, the wind's blowing. Oh, I don't know, my allergies, you know, right? It's like, fuck, Eeyore, you just like fucked it all up. I woke up happy, you know, I got a BJ this morning, like everything's great. Like this birds are chirping. And then I'm like, hey, what's up, homie? And you're just like pissing on my day. No guy wants an Eeyore around them. Yeah, I mean, like you lower the vibrational frequencies of the entire group when you're negative, when you're problem driven and not solution driven. And so like we have to go into solve mode.
100%, man. So what do you think about, speaking of vulnerability, and let's keep it on the spouse topic for a second, about men who cry in front of their wives? Obviously, there's some situations that are appropriate. If someone passes away.
Like in what capacity?
I guess, yeah, that's what Lauren and I were talking about upstairs too. It's kind of like, you know, there's the serious, obviously understandable thing when someone close to you passes away. And then there's something where they just, let's say, for example, the wife can think of 6-7 times in the year where you cried about something that you probably shouldn't have been crying about. Like you should have just man up and, you know, sack up and freaking just deal with it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like she can think about, man, there was like 6-7 different occasions where he was crying about something where I was just like, you're the man. Like, I don't know what to do. You have to figure it out. And so I was telling Lauren, I was like, I feel like if a woman
my
has
brain
enough
can't
of those
even
things,
process that. Like how that would happen.
Like
that happens?
Dude, it does. There's some guys, because I think some guys don't think that there's anything wrong with it because they're brainwashed by, I don't want to make this a political thing, but they're brainwashed by these people who tell you to get tapped into your feminine side and that whole thing, right?
Yes.
And that's been a thing that they've been talking about, that using that same talking point forever. So it's not new, but it's definitely a lot more prominent nowadays, which is why people like Andrew Tate, people like you, people like whoever else in the sphere of trying to help men become better and be actual men, man up, are rising so quickly because there's so much of the other stuff that's just like poisoning them and they know it doesn't feel right. So anyways, what is your thought about a man that not crying about a death or something serious like that, but someone where, you know, maybe he loses his job, right? Which is serious. Yeah. But dude, you have to figure it out, bro. Like you need to make money. You need to, like, this is time to like go and figure it out. You know what I mean? Like, what are your thoughts on that? Is it okay to cry?
That was a great example. I was looking for an example in my head so I can wrap my head around it, and that was a great example. So let's say there's 6 or 7 times in a year, like you said, similar examples to that. He loses his job. He comes home. He's like, hey, honey, I got downsized, right? They downsized me. I've lost my job. Here's the last paycheck they gave me. And then he breaks down and starts crying. Bro, immediately that woman is losing respect for him. She's feeling fear and insecurity because like, oh shit, you're the man. You're supposed to naturally know how to fix this. And if you don't, at least talk to me about it. But if you're breaking down and crying, I don't know how to go and get you a job. I don't know what kind of like money opportunities exist out there for you. Like, you know what you're good at. And if you don't have a solution in mind to the point where you're crying, like, this makes me feel like we're going to lose our house. Our baby's going to have to sleep in the fucking car, whatever. And the moment a man gets insecure like that, and that is an insecurity, and he gets emotionally unhinged, like, that is no reason to cry. Like, all right, you might be like, babe, I'm bummed. I'm actually pissed. I'm very frustrated. I lost my job. Can you and I figure out how to get me a job in the next 2 weeks? Like, will you help me? Yeah, honey, I will. Great. Here's the skill sets that I have. Like, but you're a better writer, so can you write up a thing that I can put on my social media that I'm looking for a job, because I know sales, I know marketing, I know persuasion, I know influence, I know follow-up, and I'll start DMing people the little text that you give me to send out. Right. But the moment this dude starts crying, One, it's embarrassing for him. Two, it makes him feel like a victim. Three, she starts feeling fear, insecurity, and doubt in that relationship. And then the worst thing happens. She loses respect for him. And you remember that survey I did on my YouTube channel. I said, men, if you could only have one thing, love or respect from your woman, what would it be? 82% of like over 4,000 people chose respect. Because men want to be respected first and then loved second. If we can only have one or the other. If we can have both, I want to be respected and loved in that order. And so once she loses respect for you, bro, it's over. There was a video. You talked about it, and then I saw it. Some female MMA
Muay Thai fighter.
Muay Thai fighter.
Yeah.
She was dating a guy who was also a Muay Thai fighter or maybe an MMA. And then he, in an actual competitive match, he started to get beat up. And he started to try and protect himself and like whatever, like he was basically being a bitch. And she was on the Joe Rogan show or some show.
Right.
Like literally.
Biggest podcast in the world.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's crazy.
Dude, I saw that and she's like, and Joe's like, so what did you feel? She goes, immediately lost respect for him. Thought he was a big baby. Like he should have just been going down with like his fingers up, like, fuck you, you can't kill me. Instead, he was trying to protect his face and he was trying to like negotiate with the guy or whatever. And so she's like, yeah, like, there's no way I could be with this man. Like that woman said out loud what all women feel, right? Now I get it. It's not combatives, but still, if you come home and you lost your job and you're falling apart crying, she's going to lose respect for you.
It's no go.
And she's going to have fear, doubt, and insecurities.
Right. It's man, this is literally, we talked about this before, but I made a video on TikTok that went bananas. Like most of it, guys understood, but then trickled into like the women's algorithm. So then they were jumping in saying that I was wrong, whatever. The video was talking about, I said, the number one thing you're doing that's turning off your girl is that you guys talk too damn much. And so obviously we're talking all about communication and vulnerability for this episode. And so anyways, I said that and they were like, well, what do you mean? And I was like, you guys complain too much. You know, some of you guys are even crying. Like, bro, that is like immediately dried up. Like they're not trying to hear none of that. You know what I'm saying? Like they're just like, nope, pass. I'm good. I'm sleeping over here. Like, there's no interest there, right?
Bro, women are ruthless. Like, if we're having this conversation, let's be honest. Women are ruthless. Like, they will fall madly in love with you and, like, have your back to the end of the world if you know how to manage them. And I'm going to use that word, how to manage them, their expectations, their feelings, thoughts, and emotions. And then they're ruthless in fucking, like, losing respect for you if they're like, this man's a bitch.
It's like that, I'm going to butcher the quote, but basically, you can build your reputation. It takes 20 years, but it takes 20 minutes to just destroy it all.
Yep.
It's the same thing with a relationship where you can work your ass off, have a great 5 years being together, whatever, but it's a slippery slope, man. You do something the wrong way, you're a little bit too soft. Like there should be nothing soft about.
Yeah. No, man, a man should be hard physically, mentally, and stoic emotionally. Be physically, mentally hard and emotionally stoic. And you're good. And it's like, well, how do I do that? Start Googling, come to the project, do the Squire program with your son. Physical, mental hardness, and emotional stoicism.
There you go. Now, on that note, when it comes to, talking to your spouse about certain things, let's just say, it's not something you're going to cry about. So let's take that off the table. We talked about that. You're not sad in that way, but you feel that you need to get something off your chest. Like you need to vent about something that, maybe you did wrong in the relationship. You need to come clean or whatever. There's something that stood out to me before that you talked about in the project, telling the guys that there are certain things that you don't open up about. There are certain things that you do. And the reason you said was because men can handle things differently. They can handle different load. We're built for this. And so can you kind of expound on that?
Yeah. That's a good thing to tee up. So there's certain things I'm not going to necessarily bring up to my spouse at home because I know her brain is not wired to handle it. Just like before we started filming today in the studio, we were talking about, you're about to have a boy. Andrew, you're about to have a boy, right? And so, the two of you have boys coming and we're talking about how, and whether it's a boy or you have a child on the way, That doesn't matter. What we're talking about is you guys were asking like, hey, B, where were you when Di was having Andrew and Chloe? And I was like, just on the sidelines, trying not to really look at what was going on, but just supporting my wife the best I can. But I didn't want to cut an umbilical cord. I didn't want to mess anything up. If I looked in the wrong direction, if I saw blood or whatever, I might pass out. Now I become a problem to the doctors, and I want them to work on my wife and not me. So there's things that women could handle, bro. I could not handle being in that stirrup in that hospital chair. Like,
nope.
I get it. I was part of making the baby, but I just put the cookies in the oven.
Right.
You know,
somebody else take them out.
Yeah,
I get it.
Someone take that cookies out.
Right.
It's hot.
It ain't gonna be me.
It's hot. My hands are delicate. It's hot. And so that's just how we're wired as men. Now there's some men who could do that, but then one of you were telling the story of. I think, I don't know, some woman had a C-section and the doctor asked the husband, like, hey, can you hold this flap while I continue to cut? Like, bro, I would pass out, right?
Yeah.
Just like that, there's things that happen in a man's world that we can process and handle better that women can't. So there was an example of things that women can go through. Like I bet you like a nurse, any kind of, another woman being there could handle all of that. We can't. And there's issues. Like, for example, when the pandemic happened and Fit Body Bootcamp, our franchise, we lost over a 10-month period, 218 franchise locations. Like, I did not want to necessarily, I knew how much dollars we were losing in the millions. I wasn't about to tell my wife. She knew that obviously we were losing locations, but I was like, babe, we got it under control. I'm selling more coaching services to bring in the money that we need to fill in the gap. We're selling Truly Wellness shots. Actually, we created the wellness shot during the pandemic for that reason, for that necessity. But Truly was filling in the financial gap. My coaching services were filling in the financial gap. Internally, I was like, so it's like this. If you ever watch a duck on a lake, they're super calm when they're just going by. There's no ripple or nothing, man. They're just going. If the camera went under the water, their feet are like, wah, right? That was me. I was like super calm above waters because I don't want to make my wife panic. I didn't have the answers to everything. Like we're losing locations, 218 franchise locations out of 600. How much longer is this pandemic going to go? How many more locations are we going to lose? Where's the breaking point where we can't sell enough coaching services and Truly supplements to be able to make up for the lost money? When do I have to start, laying people off? When do I start selling off my rental properties, which I ended up doing? Sold both of my rental properties. And so all those things. But if I was going to dump all that on my wife, I know she could handle it, but I wouldn't want to put that stress on her because the way she would handle it, like it would register like as a 9 or a 10 on her stress meter, where on my stress meter, it registered as a 7 or an 8. You know what I mean? And so me and the team, we got it. And so there are things that happens in a man's world. I'm not saying hide information. I'm not saying that. I'm saying like you are able to cope with some forms of stress and adversity better than a woman can, just like women are able to cope with some levels of stress and adversity better than you can.
Right.
And so understand the difference. And then don't put the weight of that stress and adversity on a woman because it's going to feel like 1,000,000 pounds to her, where for you it only feels like 100 pounds.
Right.
Just solve through it, figure it out. And plenty of times I've told my wife after the fact, like, man, that was a close call. And I remember giving her this example. The airplane's going down, down, down. I'm like, babe, I scraped the belly of the plane.
We were skipping.
Yeah. Ting, ting, ting. And then we went back up. She's like, really? I was like, yep.
Yeah.
What is she going to do if she knows that fact?
Right.
All she's going to do is, where are my babies going to sleep? What's going to happen to this house? Am I going to have to lose my car? Like, right? Because it's a helpless feeling. So why put you there? And I think I've got an answer. I'm working on the solution with the team. I'll let you know when to freak out.
Exactly. That's interesting you said that too, because that's exactly what I do. Like literally, and I learned that over time, and learning lessons from you and different people that I watch very closely. I'm picking up these different lessons, and that was one thing that I picked up was that, when you're in the fire, especially depending on what it is, I'm not going to talk about it. Like I'm going to extinguish it. Then afterwards, man, that was crazy. Even now, like I'll talk about, I would never talk about how broke I was before until now that I'm not in that position anymore, because I'm not going to put myself in that light or feel like I'm a victim or complaining or whatever. But afterwards, like, man, I was struggling, right? And people love hearing those stories. Same thing. There's an example though, and Betsy actually hasn't even heard this story. So if you're watching this, here's a story I was always telling you that I'll tell you later about. She could tell I was just really down and stressed out, for a couple weeks. And she kept wanting to, like, women, they want to talk. Yeah. Tell me what's going on with you. Yeah. What's up? And I wasn't opening up. I was like, everything's fine. Yeah, exactly. And the details too. What's going on? What did you feel in this moment? What do you feel now? Like, you know what I mean? So I was like, listen, everything's fine. Like, I'll be fine. It is what it is, right? And so really what was going on was I had no money in the bank account. Like, I literally,
minor issue.
I literally had negative $20 in the bank account, and I had rent to pay, which is $3,000 coming up. And then my second daughter was just born. Zuleika obviously was like 2.5 at the time, and then obviously Betsy. So I'm taking care of the 3 girls, and I have no money, and I'm stressed out. I'm trying to figure out what can I sell, like, what can I put together, like, can I ask to borrow, like, what can I do in this situation? And Betsy, she loves her Target. If there's any women watching, or guys watching too, your girls love Target. Like, hey, can you pick this up? Or hey, we need to go to Target to pick this up, whatever. Betsy needed to go pick something up at Target, and I'm stressed out because I'm like, we don't have money to get it. Like, we don't, you know what I mean? So, but it turns out the Target order was put in, and that's what put us under. Like, she'd ordered something to go pick it up. So we already paid for it, but she just had to go pick it up, right? So I guess that was kind of like, okay, like, I won't get caught because she already paid for it, and we're good for now, right? But now I look at my bank account, and I have negative $20 in there. And so I'm stressed out. I'm like, dude, I'm gonna freaking get this account shut down. I don't have any money. Like, what am I going to do? Right. And so she goes, I'll pick it up. I know you're busy right now. I'll go pick it up. And I'll take care of it. Right. Just stay with Asalia, the newborn, and I'll go take Zuleika with me. I'm like, okay. So she goes, I'm going to use, she says, I need to use forgot I need to get gas. Do you have your card? And I'm trying to think, like, now, how am I going to get out of this? Because I don't have anything on there. So I had to play it smooth. I had to just give it to her and be like, but I'll give it to you, but honestly, just use cash. So just take my car. My car has gas. Plus I have $20 cash in the glove compartment. Like, just use that if you really want to, right? So I'm trying to, like, be cool this whole time, trying to figure out, like, how to not get caught or slipped up. And so, anyways, long story short, she ended up taking her car. She went to go get gas, but she didn't want to go in and use the cash that I gave her to the cashier, because then she'd have to take the baby out of the car seat, and it was a whole thing. So she's like, I'm just going to use the card. I'm right here. And so she comes back in like 5 minutes. Like, I'm like, there's no way you went to Target. There's no way. And so she comes back in mad as hell. Like, she just had an attitude. And I'm like, what happened? Like, that was super fast. She's like, I don't know why the stupid machine wasn't working.
Cool. Like, what happened?
Yeah, I was like, what? Like, what? You're back with the bags. You want me to, what's up? Dude, man, it's crazy. I'm an actor,
in the trunk? I could get it.
I know, yeah, for sure. Like, I hope you're not bringing them up the stairs. And so she goes, man, the stupid ass machine wasn't working. Like, it kept saying decline, but it was like saying, go inside, talk to the cashier. I didn't want to take Zuleika out of the car seat. I just came home. I was like, that's stupid. Why did it tell you why I wasn't working? Whatever. So anyways, she never found out until obviously now she's watching it. But I tell you all that to say that I didn't share that with her, because I knew if I shared that we had no money in the bank account, like, I could handle it. It was like beating me up, but I could handle it better than her. Yeah. She thinks like the whole world is over. Right. You know what I mean? Like, there's no solution. How are we going to fix it? We have to pay rent. We just had a baby. Like, she's already sensitive because the baby was just born like a week ago. Yeah. So all these different things, man, you just got to be careful on what you share and what you don't share.
Like, that's a perfect example, right?
Yeah, there. Man, it was crazy. But you make it through, and it's all right. Now you can tell them later on.
I think I know the answer because I know you, but I'm sure everyone's dying to know. So how did you make rent and start filling up the bank account?
Dude, so I had a couple signature boards that were like, you wouldn't even skate them. We call them wall hangers. Like, you just put them on your wall. Yeah. Sold some of my nicer clothes that I had. And then also too, I would just, honestly, man, I went to the church and I asked the bishop, I said, hey man, I'm struggling right now. Is there anything I can get, like, for just this? I have this amount for it. I don't have this. I'm short this. Can you help me out? So, yeah, for sure. Like, they've helped so much. And so I just went and asked for help. That's awesome. Like, and I didn't tell Betsy about it because I didn't want to stress her out, make it seem like, well, we need help. Like, what's going on, right? And so it was a wild ride, man. It was a wild ride. But that's another thing too. Like, you have to be willing to do things that maybe you're not as comfortable with as a man, like dropping your ego and asking for help or figuring things out to help your family.
Think how often men don't ask for help and put themselves and their family into a deeper crisis. You know what I mean? And that's why I was asking you, like, hey, how did you solve through it? Because you got creative. All right, I'm going to sell these boards. which obviously with your skating background, you probably didn't want to sell them, but you knew that there was value there. I'm going to sell these clothes. Okay, I still need to bridge the gap, so I'm going to go and ask the bishop at the church, like, hey, man, I need help. You put your ego and your pride aside, and you do that. And there's a huge lesson in that, because when men don't ask for help, and this is what we talk about at the project, suffering in silence, right? White knuckling through life, not asking for help, only acquiring more debt, feeling more guilty, and then you start having those thoughts of like, maybe I just need to eat a bullet. And that's the last thing a man should do. And so when you are able to get resourceful and start solving problems or asking for help, you can bridge the gap and then move through life and take care of your family.
Right, 100%, man. So the last thing, because that's one face of it, but there's another face of it, and this is how we're gonna end it. We're gonna get all the clips in this part, because I know people are gonna go freaking ballistic. There was one time you having a conversation with the guys at the project, and you told them that you said, hey guys, if you have ever made mistakes in your relationship, cheating on your wife, infidelity, anything like that, and you are honestly sorry, you're not going to do it anymore, then why would you tell her? Because now every time you go on a business trip, you come to this event called the project. She's like, are you really going to the project? You're really paying that amount of money to do that? Like, you must be taking somebody out on a trip or whatever. Now she's just replaying, what could be going on in her mind.
Yeah.
And you're stressing her out and bringing her down in that way. And so I just want you to share that message and kind of expound on that a little bit.
So listen, man, and this is something that I have to give credit to Dr. Laura Schlesinger. And if anyone listens to the BK show, my show, they know that woman was a talk radio host, a psychologist and talk radio host throughout the 90s all the way to the early 2000s on the biggest talk radio show in LA called KFI Talk Radio.
And above all that, a woman. It's coming from a woman, right?
Yeah,
So,
bro.
Dude,
I'm just a messenger.
Yeah.
It's coming from a woman. It's coming from a woman. But check this out, man.
Right.
I remember, because I would listen to Dr. Laura's show when I was driving around and stuff, going to work and stuff. And she gave good advice. And, I wanted to learn. She's a psychologist. She helped you work through your shit. And she would have callers call in and give their problem, and she would say, here's the problem, right, on the radio, and here's a solution for that problem. So some dude calls, and he's like, yeah, Dr. Laura, I'm engaged, we're about to get married, and during my engagement, I cheated on my fiance, and I feel horrible, and I want to know what's the best way to tell her. Like, I want to have a clean slate with her. I want to get it off my chest, get it off my conscience. What's the best way to tell her? And I'm thinking Dr. Laura is going to be like, here's how you tell her that you cheated on her during your engagement. She goes, listen, do you plan on cheating on her ever again? He says, no. Do you plan on ever cheating on her when you guys are married 10 years, 15 years, 20 years, 30 years in? No. Then you don't tell her anything. You take that to your grave. And she said, the reason is, if you tell her just to get it off your chest for a clean slate, clear your conscience, yeah, you think you're going to do all that. You just put so much doubt and insecurity in that woman that anytime you go anywhere, it doesn't matter if you're going out with your friends, it's a business trip, you're coming to do the project, it doesn't matter what you're doing, she's going to constantly go back into a traumatic state like, uh-oh, how do I know he's not cheating on me? How do I know he's not doing something bad? How do I know he's not seeing another woman? So you take it to your deathbed, is what Dr. Laura said, and I think it was the smartest, most intelligent answer to men. And so all men out there, if you have done something, you've stepped out on your marriage, on your relationship, and you're like, I want to tell her because I've become a new man, a 2.0 man. I've developed new values and I want a clean slate. I want to clear my conscience. Shame on you. Do not tell her, because you're putting the weight and the stress of that on her. Then she's going to carry that. Instead, promise yourself that you'll never do that again. Live a virtuous life and take that to your deathbed is the greatest gift that I can give you here.
100%. So that's obviously solid advice. What do we say though when, on the other side of things, what we practice and preach, Squire Program, the project, your personal brand is all about talking about men taking accountability. Like, where does that kind of line up for, let's say, a counter argument is like, well, how is that keeping yourself accountable if you don't really come clean? You know what I mean?
Well, you don't need to come clean to your wife about it, because you're putting the stress on her. Come clean to your therapist. Come clean to your pastor. Come clean to your bishop. Come clean to your coach and mentor. Come clean to whoever and be like, hey, man, I'm just telling you this to get it off my chest. I did something bad. I regret it. I never am going to do it again. as a friend, as a mentor, as a bishop, as a pastor, as a therapist. I need you to hold me accountable to this. And I'm letting you know right now, I'm promising you, another man, that I will never do this, but I'm not going to tell my wife because I don't want to put the stress and the weight of all of that on her. I'm going to take it to my grave. And that's it. So, and that's it. So not everything needs to be like, well, I'm a virtuous man and I have to become clean on everything. No, you don't. No, you don't. If you don't plan on repeating that stupid mistake ever again, shut your fucking mouth and take it to your grave.
There it is. That's the way to end the show, man. I appreciate it, B. Thanks for joining us. And it was a great episode, man. We're going to do this more often.
Thank you.
Awesome. Cool, guys. So there goes another great episode with Mr. Bedros Keuilian, the founder of the Squire Program. If you guys enjoyed this episode, like it, share it, subscribe if you haven't already, and we'll see you guys next time. Peace.